Jen. Hey there, Danielle.
Hello.
Speak up.
How are you doing today?
Good in here.
Pretty good, thank you for asking. So in our last activity, I see that you picked a princess and a villain. Just wondering, which one maybe did you relate to more?
The villain.
And what's your villain's name?
She's the Wicked Witch.
Okay, and just thinking, what about the Wicked Witch did you relate to?
I just always consider myself someone that really doesn't care about others in the way that I just need to get to my goal. I need to get where I want to be. I don't care who is besides me on the path or whatever. I don't care about them. I just care about my path and what I want to do and where I gotta get. I don't really care about anyone else in that sense.
Okay. But honestly, what about that makes you feel that being so goal-orientated is a bad thing?
Well, the thing is, when you have others surrounding you saying that you have to care about others, you have to be there for others, and me being in a path where I don't care about others, just me getting to the finish line and don't really caring about others, is something that it's bad. Consider the societal norms and what everything my parents' values and what they taught me is that you have to be good with someone else. You have to be good for others. I'm not really like that.
So would you say, like, on your path to success and your goals, that there aren't friends and family that you do care about? Do you take time out for other people, or are you just all the way goal-orientated?
When I am focused and concentrating on something, I like to finish that before I can really get to someone else and be there for someone else.
Are there any times that you would put a family or friend, like, in front of your goals? Or if somebody needed you, have you been there for them?
Yeah, but like I said before like what happened to my best friend, actually before I went to the hospital when they called me and before I went to the hospital to be with him, first I had to finish what I was doing before going there.
What were you doing before you went?
I was getting I was getting ready for an interview. I was getting ready my papers and everything, and I had to finish those things before I went to him, because for me is I had to finish everything that's related to me before I can get to someone else that really needed me. And I love my friend. I really love him, but in me it's just I have to finish what I'm doing. I have to finish the things for me before I can get to someone else.
Okay, now I'm stuck.
Okay, so what I noticed a moment ago is that there was some judgment.
I-
There was judgment on your behalf, and her,
I'm sorry, what was said?
I'll tell you in a second, I'll
Okay.
paraphrase because I don't remember the exact words. And what I noticed in her was she swallowed really deep. When someone swallows really deep like that, just like if you're about to give a speech, there is a judgment or that you don't feel that what you're saying is right. So she was like, you judged her. She's like,
I
oh
said it
great, now I
anyways.
have to freaking excuse myself. Like, and so lesson number 1, clients want to please their therapists. That can work in our favor at certain times when we want to, the empathy and the rapport and that. But that is not something that we want them to violate their own stuff. So you said, well, are there times when you do put others before you when you have something to do? So what you're saying with a question like that is you're wrong in putting yourself first. There's a hidden judgment that she heard in that. And her nonverbal was with the throat. What?
She got me. I'm a bad now.
Right, you're bad. You're fucked. You're going to
I
hell.
actually liked that question.
What was that?
I actually liked that question.
It's a good question, but the way she addressed the question was the.
Okay,
It's
but,
a judgmental question.
okay, but
That's what you're trying to say.
it makes sense that Tanisha would like that question. Does anyone know why?
Because she
I
puts
didn't think of
everybody
it that
else.
way.
Because Tanisha's entire value system is about her auntie, her cousins.
I'm her
I didn't think of it like
Of
that.
course she likes that question. She's like, yeah,
She's hating me.
of course.
Would it have been better to ask, like, has there been any instances where you have put a friend or family before a task oriented.
Okay, but
I think
I
that's
wanna
right.
know why you guys wanna make her put someone first.
That's the thing, she's happy and she's secure, so now I don't know where to go with it.
Okay, well,
She
if
doesn't have
she's
a
here,
problem
she's
with
not
it.
happy and secure about it. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's the mask, and she's
Okay.
constipated.
I know this.
So why, though, is the go-to place, oh, have you ever, when you need to find out why she feels a need to take care of her own shit first. Because somewhere there is a story where she didn't get to finish her shit, and she got an F, she got fucked, something.
And why did she pick that character in the first place? Why is she?
And
the
where does she
wicked witch?
resonate exactly with that character?
She said that she doesn't care about anybody and she wants to get her stuff done and that's what's most important to her.
Okay,
That she
so
doesn't.
go to the abused girl. Go to the start of the story. How did the villain in Snow White become the villain? How?
Is that how-
How? I want Jennifer to answer. How did she become the villain in Snow White?
When she decided to poison her,
Nope. Go to the origin.
I don't remember the beginning of the story.
The beginning of the story is mirror, mirror on the wall.
Oh,
Who's
yeah.
the fairest of them all?
Okay,
And what does the mirror say?
that she was, but then Snow White was when she was born.
Exactly.
I thought,
So there's a
Yeah.
competition. There's someone that has been put in front of her when she had first place. She was dethroned by something or someone, and hell if she's gonna let someone else be the fairest, everybody else can fucking wait. This bitch is gonna be first. So
'Cause-
Snow White can get fucking poisoned. She don't give a shit. I don't care if you're on your deathbed. But that is not accidental. She didn't pick that character accidental. There is a story there. Find the abused girl and don't try to tell her you're wrong because you were someone was put above you. Tell her, fuck, that sucks. And then you give the fire. Then you help find the tools for transformation.
okay.
But the question, do you hear how it was judgmental? And you, of course, liked it because of your own story. So go back to the beginning.
Don't change her story. Let her tell you.
Right. And if nothing else
She's
in
feeling bad. She
worrying,
doesn't really want to ask me anything.
listen, if nothing else in working with fairy tales, you can straight up ask the client, so, were you the fairest of them all? Who became the fairest after they were born? You start with the actual story in the fairy tale. That's another way. Have at it.
Okay, but I feel like if you know somebody and they, like, okay, they don't like, what,
Say it. Say it.
like, I talked to her out.
Forget that. If you know someone
No,
and
I
you don't
talked to her
feel,
outside of class, so like, I kind of know her story, but what if she doesn't want to tell everybody here her story?
first of all, we've all signed consents that it's all open.
But the thing is, like, what if you already
Second,
know stuff, but then
you're
you don't
talking
wanna
about
put it out?
yourself. You want to keep your own secrets and you don't want to be in that chair. Third, you want to only talk about her good bucket and not her bad bucket.
Yes,
So you got to let go of all that shit.
Exactly what it is.
yes, yes.
So
And
let go of it.
you're also
But I
putting.
feel like I'm cheating,
Why are you cheating?
because I
You
know
just-
what the root of the story is.
But
No,
you
you
just-
think you know.
You think you know. You just said she has things she doesn't want to say, but so you're putting yourself in her shoes. You're not allowing her to make those decisions.
No, we talked about this.
No,
That's the
no,
problem, and I
like,
feel like
No.
I'm to betray in a way.
Okay, no.
I thought we were doing
Everyone
something
here knows that their shit is on the table. If now we wouldn't have a recorder and you wouldn't have signed the paper, A. B, you're talking, that is you.
Okay.
That's about you. But third, you are not revealing. She speaks. You ask the questions.
That-
You're not betraying
You're not
her.
betraying.
That's right.
She will betray herself if she says something she doesn't want to say.
Right. Let her make that decision. You're not betraying her secrets. And you're role playing as the therapist, so you really can't take all that in. You have to allow her to make those decisions of what she wants to say.
I can't read anything into your questions about you, like not even a little bit. So whatever questions you ask or anything like that, just feel free to just ask on what it is. Try to wear a different hat.
Why don't you
Put on a
start
different
with
hat.
the story so you don't feel that you're getting
Right.
into personal? Ask her, has there been a time where you have been, you know, dethroned or there's someone fairer? Or who in your life, you know, is the Snow White that made you?
It's fine.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I see that you picked the Wicked Witch, and what about this witch like resonates with you? What do you feel maybe you guys might have in common, something that ties you with her since you did pick her versus Snow White?
My brother was always first in everything. My family didn't really want me. Like my grandfather and my grandparents didn't really want me because they already had the boy. They already had my brother, so they didn't want me. My mom and my dad were the ones that wanted me.
Mm.
But there was a lot of fights during my mom's pregnancy because my family, my other family, aside from my dad and my mom, didn't want me.
Yeah.
So
When did you find this out? Were you young? Like, do you
Yeah,
remember
I
your own
was-
age?
I was 9. Yeah, I was 9. There was a fight in my grandparents' house. They were fighting. My dad was drunk and he was fighting with my grandfather, and everything got out like he didn't want my daughter and all those things. And I figured out it was because of that, because they didn't want me. They didn't want my mom. They didn't want her when she was pregnant with me. They didn't want me. So
And when you were around 9 years old and you found that out, well, how did it make you feel? And did that like make something click or something change in you?
in that moment, I just like kind of had an epiphany, like why I was the way I was. Like back in my subconscious, I already knew that. So that's why I always wanted to be the first in everything. That's why I felt so depressed and so like beat down, and someone was in first place and I was not there. And I couldn't reach that place because back in my subconscious, I was always the second one. So I just kind of knew subconsciously, I guess.
So you'd say that like motivated you and pushed you to always put yourself first, since maybe
Yeah.
you didn't feel like you were first or wanted.
Yeah.
That's a yes or no though.
That's okay, there's places for yes or no. What I notice in your body language, your face is, I am so terrified to be asking you this question. I do not trust myself. Why am I saying this question? And if the client doesn't feel comfortable with you, they're going to notice that you're unsure of yourself. So we want to pay attention to that. Of course, you're unsure, you're nervous and all of that, but just so that you can be aware that you want to just be more natural, you be more soft, because then you make her more comfortable. Remember, this is role playing with people you know, so there's already a rapport, but people off the street,
Which actually
They're
makes
not
it
gonna be
harder.
talking like me. They're gonna be like, okay.
exactly, right, they're gonna
Right.
answer one question or stay silent, or, so it's
That's fine.
important that we feel confident in what we're doing, yes.
That's a big thing because we hearing, but we can't see the face we make.
That's why we're videoing.
Yeah, I'm getting like, how do you work on, okay,
Well-
besides the video, like, how do you work on that? Because, like, as you practice, you learn and you become you come better at it, but our face expressions give away before we can even open our mouth, so how do you practice
And that's why
on that?
this is a super important tool in this field. And usually in a bachelor's of psychology, you not only not get a clinical, you don't get this. In our programs, we did. And then you have something called supervision. And in supervision, your supervisor shows you the video and does this individually so that you could start paying attention to your facial expressions.
And you have to just be conscious of your moments, of your feelings, of your, because it's harder because you know each other. She doesn't want to betray confidences. So yes, it's harder. But when you're with the client, you definitely have to be conscious of your facial expressions, the way you're sitting, how you're reacting. You have to add in those silences to let them tell you. And that's the hardest for me personally. That was the hardest thing I had to learn, because I wanted to like fill in all the gaps. I wanted to say what they wanted to say to me, and I had to shut up. I had to just keep quiet, and then I slowly would watch them. And I do it with my own family, my own kids. I have to sit there and and I have to like.
I haven't mastered that skill yet, in case you haven't figured that out.
It's very hard, but you have to consciously say, shut up, don't say anything, wait 5 more seconds, and that'll make a difference.
Yeah, slow mode.
Exactly.
Okay, so you asked the question about where she resonates, and then she talks about this with the brother. So let's just follow this model for a moment. You have the abused girl. It's a shit situation. You ask about how it made her feel. She now has developed a behavior trait. What did I say? Your tendencies don't change, but your behaviors do. So the behavior of her having to, let's say, do her work first before she goes visits her friend in the hospital, that's a behavior that can shift. The tendency of either being competitive or being first or putting herself first, whatever that is, probably won't change. But the behaviors around it is what we can work with. So you identify that the client has been shit on. She is the match girl. You honor that. Sometimes we spend weeks and weeks in session just having empathy and just saying, man, that fucking sucks. Because that client may have never ever been asked a question. Maybe every single place that Aniela has ever gone, all she's ever gotten is kudos for being first. And now someone is actually saying, oh wait, you give a shit of why I want to be first? That can last 3 weeks. That can put the person into breakdown mode. She might want to come in 3 weeks, say the same story, and just talk about the and and then he got this first, and then he got the puppy first, and then he got. So you have to honor that abused child. You're not going to solve everything in a session. So this is a good sort of little cheat sheet model. If you're going to hop into change, you need to identify that there's some self-destructive behavior. There's some poor coping. Even if in society, being first and being 19 with a side D looks good, if it is deviant, if it's the outlier, it's probably causing a problem. Abnormal Psychology 101. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Most 19-year-olds are not going to have a side D. You'll be, 21 when you get yours? That's an outlier. Beethoven and Mozart or whatever these famous composers. Okay, their lives are studied because they're sort of prodigy children, and there's some screwy story there.
But, okay, so my question is, at this point, so we know that she wants to be first, it makes her feel good, so it doesn't seem like a problem to me.
It's a lie. It doesn't make her feel good.
She's forced to have put herself in that position.
Do you see that if she told you she drinks,
All right.
you would not be, oh, she feels good. You're looking at the problem as good because you have a judgment that being first, because you have that same thing, is good. So why the hell is she in therapy? You guys will hug and go become best friends because you got the same issue. It is a judgment that putting herself first, being competitive, that she always has to strive to be the Snow White at whatever cost.
And also, pay attention to facial expressions. When she's talked about finding out at 9 years old that she wasn't wanted, that
that
her
seems like
brother,
more of a
did you
problem to me.
see her face? There was pain in her face. it hurt her.
That's what I'm saying, that seemed like more of a problem to me than the other one,
So
so which one
that's
would you
a
address
threat.
It's the
first?
same problem.
But it's the same
Oh.
problem
It's a
because
thread.
that's
That's why it
she's
doesn't
upset.
matter what story she tells you, it's gonna take her back to that. Do not get caught up in the story. That's why I lectured. You've got the protagonist and you've got the antagonist. You know the antagonist is her brother. Forced her to have a behavior of being first.
And he didn't put himself in that position, he was put there.
So it is the part of her that would ever dare to put someone first that is the real antagonist, that is the real problem. And therefore, she doesn't want the part of herself that isn't masculine. Remember I told you, competition is masculine. We did this. We did this. If she isn't into with gender, ego, being first, making the most money, she's in a male, in a masculine energy. Therefore, her unwanted part is this one. She doesn't want this part of her because her brother had this part, the masculine, the penis, the competitive. There's a list of words that you can describe with the planet Mars. So don't get caught up in the story. Break it to tiny parts. That's why I gave you the box and the threads. There's only a handful of threads, and every single one of us has them. So this is a thread of pure gender. And what did she say? I don't give a shit if you're in the hospital. I'm doing my work. Who says that at an office?
I love him, he's my best friend, but hey,
Me,
I gotta do my
me.
thing.
What did we learn about the ego at 2 years old? Mine. She's stuck in the masculine as the one that is more worthy. I cannot show emotion because I have to be male. I have to be stoic. I cannot be second and compassionate because I have to reach the finish line first. There's a story, it was one of these Olympic things, I think it was the Paralympics, where one of the Olympians fell and the winner
others
said, screw it, I'm going back to help my colleague.
Yes.
And they ended up giving both of them the medal.
It was the Paralympics.
Yeah.
She would not do that, not because she's not empathic and sensitive and beautiful and sweet and wonderful, because Lord knows she's a mush ball. It's because she doesn't have permission, because the minute she does that,
She goes
the
this way.
wanted part of her, the male, will cease to exist. I mean, she and I share the same story, minus the trans, but you might create that. You have a gay best friend.
She ain't really used the word female. Like you said, it's me. She only said female once. They didn't want a girl or a female. They didn't want me.
But the minute she says they wanted a boy,
That's it.
forget everything else you heard.
My
Go
brother,
to your
the
thread.
boy.
It's a gender thing.
Okay.
My entire story, I have told you guys this. I dated a man, a penis doesn't work. I married a man without a penis.
Say-
I lost custody to be the man. I paid the bills in all the relationships. I wear a dress and heels every day. I'm a pretty cute girl. Doesn't matter what I look like. My psyche thinks that being a man is worth more. Why? Because just like her, my mother had the boy that she was looking for, asked the doctor to tie her tubes. Luckily, the doctor said no, which I don't know how, but he did. Saved my life.
At a certain age.
And I came because that's the way I am. I said, I'm coming, people. Watch out. I'm here. That's why I'm so loud, right? And my whole life, I've been trying to be male. Then I get cancer, and I'm like, oh, I need to be female. And I have a birth of Venus party, and I'm trying to be female in all the ways, and et cetera, et cetera. She said the whole story when she said that the Snow White, the fairest of them all, was her brother. You need nothing else. You
That-
need to listen, people. Listen.
That's why her brother was Snow White, and that's why she had to be the Wicked Witch.
And her problem, her poor coping, or whatever, the issue that needs to transform is the fact that she's female and not male. Now, you're not going to tell her to go get surgery. She is already what she needs to be, female. We need to have her integrate, remember the Band-Aid? Awareness, you bring awareness that that's her issue. You integrate the aspects, and then if you're lucky, you hashtag do it differently. That's the behavior change later on. Maybe once a week, she could have a homework assignment and one of you can say, hey, Aniela, do you think we can do our homework together? So no one beat her, but you'll finish together. That's a step. Then one day Jennifer can call her and go, oh, I finished my homework. Do you want to come over and cry? Because I know you're going to have a freaking freak attack right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being silly with the, but don't get caught up in the story. Every story has the same characters, people. Forget the costume, forget the names. I use the match girl. It doesn't matter what story I put up there. Name any one of you and you're with that same thing. You have a story where you were abused, abandoned, something. You need to transform that. So you transform it by taking on a poor coping skill. That coping skill becomes your, like for instance in this could be hubris, this could be arrogance, this could be narcissism. I'm first. Well, guess what? What does the life do when you want to be first all the time? Death, metaphysical death, Jesus dies and reborns. She will learn to be humble, more compassionate. She will be forced to be the girl, the feminine in her. That's what the Jesus story is. We die in this lifetime. And what kills us? The exact antidote to what the origin of the problem is. If she needs to be first, pride, arrogance, hubris, that's exactly what will kill her. She will maybe not get the job. Maybe she doesn't get into the school. Maybe she gets abandoned. Maybe she gets chosen for another woman. That sets her into depression, into a quote-unquote death. She dies metaphysically and metaphorically, Jesus, and 3 days later, 3 years, 3 months, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 lifetimes later, she gets up and she starts it over. The difference is that now she is the same girl that was dethroned by her brother, but she's a little softer. She's a little nicer. She's a little bit more feminine. And then we go the circle, around and around and around. This is the storyline. It doesn't change. If you find out what the abused little girl is in pain for, no matter what story she comes from, you know what she did to counteract that. Because you only have the opposite. If she was chosen by a boy, she has to, and she's a girl, she had to become the boy. If your parents were an alcoholic, you became the alcoholic or the sober. You only got 2 choices. So once you really listen to the client, you know exactly what choice of transformation they picked. And I'm telling you, it's always wrong. It's always wrong. Because it's simply the opposite they have the death, metaphorically speaking, that they get knocked off. Either they get the DUI, or they, someone leaves them because of alcohol, or you don't get the job, whatever it is. That you die, remember, we're just stopping the story at death, we're not going beyond, okay? That then the person can get reborn and start over. But you start over with the same story. She is